Long before the pyramids rose from the desert sands, long before the great pharaohs sat upon their thrones, the land we know as Egypt had its beginning in a single family. This family descended from Noah, the man who survived the great flood that covered the whole earth. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. After the waters receded and the ark rested upon the mountains of Ararat, these 3 men and their wives began to fill the earth with their children and grandchildren. From these 3 sons, every nation on earth would come. The book of Genesis, chapter 10, verses 6 and 7, tells us about the sons of Ham. And the sons of Ham, Cush and Mizraim, and Phut and Canaan, and the sons of Cush, Seba and Havilah and Sabta and Rama and Sabtecha. Pay close attention to that name, Mizraim. This name is very important. In the Hebrew language, Mizraim is the word for Egypt. When the Bible speaks of Egypt in the Old Testament, it uses this very name. Mizraim was a real person, a grandson of Noah, and from him came the entire Egyptian nation. Mizraim traveled with his family to the northeast corner of Africa, to a land watered by a great river called the Nile. This river flooded its banks every year, leaving behind rich, dark soil perfect for growing crops. Mizraim and his descendants settled along this river, building villages that would one day become one of the mightiest civilizations the world has ever seen. Genesis chapter 10 verses 13 and 14 continues to describe the children of Mizraim. And Mizraim begat Ludim and Anamim, and Lehabim and Naphtuhim and Pathrusim and Casluhim, out of whom came Philistim, and Caphtorim. These were the tribes and peoples that spread across the land of Egypt and beyond. So Egypt did not appear out of nowhere. It was not built by mysterious strangers. Egypt was founded by Mizraim, the son of Ham, the grandson of Noah. From one man came a nation that would play an enormous role in the story of God's people. Many generations passed after Mizraim founded Egypt. The small villages along the Nile grew into great cities. Powerful kings called pharaohs rose to rule the land. Egypt became rich and strong, famous for its grain and its wealth. During this time, there lived a man named Abram in the land of Canaan. God had called Abram to leave his homeland and travel to a new country. Abram obeyed, and he settled in Canaan with his wife Sarai. But then something terrible happened. A famine struck the land of Canaan. The rains did not come, the crops failed, and there was no food to eat. Genesis chapter 12 verse 10 tells us what Abram did. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. Egypt had food because of the Nile River. Even when other lands suffered drought, the Nile continued to water the fields. So Abram took his family and traveled south into the land of Mizraim's descendants. But as they approached the border of Egypt, Abram became afraid. His wife Sarai was very beautiful, and Abram worried about what the Egyptians might do when they saw her. In Genesis chapter 12 verses 11 through 13, Abram spoke to his wife that, "Behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee." Everything happened just as Abram had feared. The Egyptians saw how beautiful Sarai was, and word spread until it reached the palace. Verses 14 and 15 say, "The Egyptians beheld the woman that she was very fair. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her, and commended her before Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. Pharaoh took Sarai into his palace, believing she was only Abram's sister. But this situation was very wrong. God himself stepped in to fix this problem. Verse 17 says, "And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. When Pharaoh discovered the truth, he confronted Abram." Verses 18 through 20 record, "And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife? Now therefore behold thy wife, take her and go thy way. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had." This was the first meeting between God's chosen family and the nation of Egypt. It would not be the last. Many years passed after Abraham left Egypt. Abraham died, and his son Isaac grew old. Isaac had 2 sons, Jacob and Esau. Jacob, whose name God later changed to Israel, had 12 sons. These 12 sons would become the 12 tribes of Israel. Among these 12 sons, there was one whom Jacob loved more than all the others. His name was Joseph. Genesis chapter 37 verse 3 explains, "Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. This coat was a special robe, a sign that Joseph was his father's favorite. When Joseph's brothers saw this coat, they understood what it meant." Verse 4 tells us their reaction. "And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him." Things only got worse when Joseph started having dreams. In Genesis chapter 37 verses 6 and 7, Joseph shared his first dream. "Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about and made obeisance to my sheaf." The meaning was clear. Joseph was saying that one day his brothers would bow down to him. The brothers' hatred grew stronger every day. They were looking for an opportunity to get rid of Joseph. That opportunity came when Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers far from home. Genesis chapter 37 verses 19 and 20 reveals their evil plan. "And they said one to another, Behold, this dreamer cometh. Come now therefore, and let us slay him, and cast him into some pit, and we will say, Some evil beast hath devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams." They stripped Joseph of his coat and threw him into an empty pit. Then a caravan of merchants appeared, heading toward Egypt. Judah had an idea. Instead of killing their brother, they would sell him. Verse 28 tells us, "Then there passed by Midianites merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt." Joseph, the favorite son, the dreamer of dreams, was now a slave on his way to Egypt. He was only 17 years old. Joseph arrived in Egypt as a slave. Everything he had known was gone. His father's house, his beautiful coat, his place as the favorite son. Now he was property to be bought and sold. Genesis chapter 39 verse 1 tells us who purchased him. "And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither." Potiphar was the captain of Pharaoh's guard, a position of great authority. But Joseph was not alone in that foreign land. Verses 2 through 4 reveal, "And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him. And he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put into his hand." Potiphar noticed something special about Joseph. He saw that God blessed everything Joseph touched. So Potiphar promoted Joseph, making him overseer of his entire household. But then trouble came. Verse 7 reveals the problem. "And it came to pass after these things, that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, Lie with me. Joseph refused." Verses 8 and 9 record his answer. "Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath to my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" Day after day she pressured him. One day, when no other servants were in the house, she grabbed his garment. Verse 12 says, "And she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled, and got him out." Joseph chose to flee rather than sin, but the woman wanted revenge. She used Joseph's garment as false evidence, telling everyone that Joseph had attacked her. Verses 19 and 20 describe the result. "And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, that his wrath was kindled. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound." Joseph was thrown into prison. He had done nothing wrong, yet now he sat in chains. Joseph found himself in one of the darkest places in Egypt. This was the place where Pharaoh's own prisoners were kept. But even in that dark dungeon, God did not forget Joseph. Genesis chapter 39 verses 21 through 23 shows us, "But the Lord was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison, and whatsoever they did, there he was the doer of it. Once again, Joseph rose to a position of authority. Then one day, two important prisoners arrived, the chief butler and chief baker of Pharaoh. Genesis chapter 40, verses 5 through 8, describes what happened. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning, and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me them, I pray you. The butler shared his dream about a vine with 3 branches producing grapes. Joseph interpreted in verses 12 and 13, The 3 branches are 3 days, yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thine head and restore thee unto thy place, and thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand. Joseph asked the butler to remember him and speak to Pharaoh on his behalf. Then the baker shared his dream. But Joseph's interpretation in verses 18 and 19 was grim. The 3 baskets are 3 days, yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off thee, and shall hang thee on a tree, and the birds shall eat thy flesh from off thee. 3 days later, on Pharaoh's birthday, everything happened exactly as Joseph said. The butler was restored and the baker was executed. But verse 23 says, Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgat him. The butler forgot Joseph. Joseph remained in prison, waiting. 2 full years passed. Then Pharaoh had troubling dreams that none of his wise men could interpret. Genesis chapter 41, verses 1 through 4, describes the first dream. Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat-fleshed, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed. And the ill-favored and lean-fleshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. Only then did the butler remember Joseph. Joseph was cleaned up and brought before Pharaoh. His response in verse 16 was humble. It is not in me, God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. After hearing the dreams, Joseph explained their meaning in verses 29 through 31. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. Joseph advised Pharaoh to appoint someone to store grain during the good years. Pharaoh's response in verses 39 and 40 was immediate. For as much as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. Verses 42 and 43 describe Joseph's incredible promotion. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the 2nd chariot which he had. And they cried before him, Bow the knee, and he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. The slave had become a prince. The prisoner now ruled all of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh. 13 years had passed since his brothers sold him into slavery. Now he had important work to do. Genesis chapter 41, verse 46 tells us, And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh, and went throughout all the land of Egypt. Joseph traveled across the entire country, preparing for what was coming. The 7 years of plenty began exactly as God had revealed. Verses 47 through 49 describe the abundance. And in the 7 plenteous years the earth brought forth by handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years, which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea very much, until he left numbering, for it was without number. The harvests were enormous. Joseph stored so much grain that his workers eventually stopped trying to measure it. During these prosperous years, Joseph started a family. Verses 51 and 52 tell us about his sons. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God, said he, hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for God hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. Then the 7 good years ended. Verses 54 through 57 describe the change. And the 7 years of dearth began to come, according as Joseph had said. And the dearth was in all lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. And when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said unto all the Egyptians, Go unto Joseph, what he saith to you. Do. And all countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn, because that the famine was so sore in all lands. The wisdom God gave Joseph was now feeding the world. Far away in Canaan, the famine was devastating the land. Jacob heard that there was grain in Egypt. Genesis chapter 42 verses 1 and 2 record his words. Jacob said unto his sons, Why do ye look one upon another? And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither, and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. Jacob sent 10 of his sons to Egypt, keeping only Benjamin at home. After losing Joseph, Jacob could not bear to risk losing Rachel's other son. Genesis chapter 42 verses 6 through 8 describes the meeting. And Joseph was the governor over the land, and he it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came, and bowed down themselves before him, with their faces to the earth. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. Joseph recognized his brothers immediately, but they did not recognize him. And something remarkable happened. The brothers bowed down before Joseph, with their faces to the ground. Verse 9 says, And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them. The dreams from his youth had come true. Joseph tested his brothers, demanding they bring Benjamin. After many trials, Joseph finally revealed himself. Genesis chapter 45 verses 3 and 4 records this powerful moment. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph. Doth my father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence. And Joseph said unto his brethren, Come near to me, I pray you. And they came near. And he said, I am Joseph your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt. The brothers were terrified. But Joseph had no intention of revenge. Verses 5 through 8 reveal his understanding. Now therefore be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves that ye sold me hither. For God did send me before you to preserve life. For these 2 years hath the famine been in the land, and yet there are 5 years, in the which there shall neither be earing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve you a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now it was not you that sent me hither, but God. And he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. What the brothers meant for evil, God used for good. Joseph sent his brothers back with a message for their father. Verses 9 through 11 contain his invitation. Haste ye, and go up to my father, and say unto him, Thus saith thy son Joseph, God hath made me lord of all Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not, and thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen, and thou shalt be near unto me, thou and thy children, and thy children's children. And there will I nourish thee, for yet there are 5 years of famine. The son who was sold as a slave had become the savior of his family. The descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were coming to Egypt, where a new chapter of their story was about to begin. When Jacob heard that his son Joseph was alive and ruling over all of Egypt, he could hardly believe it. The son he had mourned for over 20 years was not dead. He was the second most powerful man in the world. Jacob gathered everything he owned and began the journey to Egypt. Along the way, God spoke to him. Genesis chapter 46 verses 2 through 4 records this encounter. And God spake unto Israel in the visions of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here am I. And he said, I am God, the God of thy father. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will there make of thee a great nation. I will go down with thee into Egypt, and I will also surely bring thee up again. God promised Jacob that his family would become a great nation in Egypt. He also promised to bring them back to Canaan one day. Genesis chapter 46 verse 27 tells us how many people came. All the souls of the house of Jacob which came into Egypt were 70. 70 people in total. Joseph went to meet his father in Goshen. Genesis chapter 46 verses 29 and 30 describes their reunion. And Joseph made ready his chariot and went up to meet Israel his father to Goshen, and presented himself unto him. And he fell on his neck, and wept on his neck a good while. And Israel said unto Joseph, Now let me die, since I have seen thy face, because thou art yet alive. Joseph then brought his father before Pharaoh. Genesis chapter 47 verses 5 and 6 records Pharaoh's generous offer. And Pharaoh spake unto Joseph, saying, Thy father and thy brethren are come unto thee. The land of Egypt is before thee. In the best of the land make thy father and brethren to dwell. In the land of Goshen let them dwell. Pharaoh gave Jacob's family the best land in Egypt. The family of Israel had found a new home under Pharaoh's protection. Jacob lived in Egypt for 17 years. When he knew his death was near, he blessed each of his 12 sons and asked to be buried in Canaan, in the cave where Abraham and Isaac were buried. Genesis chapter 49 verse 33 records his death. And when Jacob had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed and yielded up the ghost, and was gathered unto his people. Joseph kept his promise. He took his father's body back to Canaan and buried him in the cave of Machpelah. Joseph continued to care for his family in Egypt. He lived to see his great-grandchildren. Before Joseph died, he made his brothers promise something important. Genesis chapter 50 verses 24 and 25 records his words, And Joseph said unto his brethren, I die, and God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land unto the land which he sware to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And Joseph took an oath of the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones from hence. Joseph knew that Egypt was not their permanent home. God would one day bring them back to Canaan. Verse 26 concludes, So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. After Joseph's death, the children of Israel continued to live in Goshen, and they multiplied rapidly. Exodus chapter 1 verse 7 describes their growth, and the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly and multiplied, and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. What began as 70 people was becoming a great multitude. Many years passed. The Pharaoh who had welcomed Joseph's family died. A new dynasty rose to power in Egypt, and everything changed. Exodus chapter 1 verse 8 introduces this dark turn. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. This new Pharaoh did not remember Joseph or the great service he had done for Egypt. All he saw was a large foreign population living in his land, and he was afraid. Verses 9 and 10 reveal his concerns, and he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that, when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. So Pharaoh decided to oppress them. Verses 11 through 14 describe the slavery that began. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters, to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. The Egyptians worked the Hebrews without mercy. But despite the hard labor, the Hebrews kept multiplying. Pharaoh then gave a terrible command to the Hebrew midwives. Verses 15 and 16 record, And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, When ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him, but if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God more than they feared Pharaoh. Verse 17 says, But the midwives feared God, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. So Pharaoh made his command public. Verse 22 records his decree. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, Every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive. Every Hebrew baby boy was to be thrown into the Nile River. During this dark time, a Hebrew couple from the tribe of Levi had a baby boy. When his mother saw how beautiful he was, she could not bear to let him die. Exodus chapter 2 verse 2 tells us, And the woman conceived, and bare a son. And when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. For 3 months she kept her baby hidden. But as he grew, it became impossible to hide him any longer. So she came up with a plan. Verses 3 and 4 describe what she did. And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes, daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein, and she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister stood afar off to wit what would be done to him. She made a waterproof basket and placed her baby inside. Then she set the basket among the reeds along the Nile. The baby's sister Miriam watched from a distance. Then something unexpected occurred. Verses 5 and 6 say, "And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him and said, 'This is one of the Hebrews' children.' Pharaoh's own daughter found the baby. She knew he was a Hebrew child, but she had compassion on him. Miriam quickly offered to find a Hebrew woman to nurse the baby. Pharaoh's daughter agreed." Verses 8 and 9 tell us, "And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Go, and the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it. The baby's own mother was paid to raise him. When he was older, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter." Verse 10 says, "And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses, and she said, Because I drew him out of the water." Moses, the child who should have died in the Nile, was now a prince in Pharaoh's palace. Moses grew up in the palace, educated in all the wisdom of Egypt, but he never forgot that he was a Hebrew. One day when he was grown, he went out to see how his people were living. Exodus chapter 2 verses 11 and 12 describe what happened. "And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren, and looked on their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian smiting an Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian, and hid him in the sand." Moses saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave. Anger rose within him, and he killed the Egyptian, burying his body in the sand. The next day Moses went out again. Verses 13 and 14 tell us, "And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. And he said to him that did the wrong, Wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? And he said, Who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me as thou killedst the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, Surely this thing is known. His secret was out. Word reached Pharaoh." Verse 15 says, "Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh, and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Moses ran for his life. At that well, Moses met the daughters of a priest named Jethro. He helped them water their flocks." Verses 21 and 22 describe what followed. "And Moses was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moses Zipporah his daughter, and she bare him a son, and he called his name Gershom, for he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land. Moses married Zipporah and became a shepherd in Midian. For 40 years he lived quietly in the desert, far from Egypt and far from his people who still suffered in slavery." Back in Egypt, the Hebrews continued to suffer. Exodus chapter 2 verses 23 through 25 tells us, "And it came to pass in process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage, and they cried, and their cry came up unto God by reason of the bondage. And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God had respect unto them. God heard their cries. He remembered his promise to Abraham. Now he was ready to act. One day, Moses was tending his father-in-law's flock near Mount Horeb. Exodus chapter 3 verses 2 through 4 describes what he saw. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I. The bush was on fire but did not burn up. When Moses came closer, God spoke to him. God told Moses his plan. Verses 7 through 10 record, And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows, and I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey. Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. God was sending Moses back to Egypt to free his people. Moses returned to Egypt with his brother Aaron. They went before Pharaoh and delivered God's message. Exodus chapter 5 verse 1 records their demand. Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness. But Pharaoh refused. Verse 2 says, And Pharaoh said, Who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not the Lord, neither will I let Israel go. Pharaoh did not know the God of Israel, but he was about to learn. God began to pour out his judgments on Egypt. Exodus chapter 7 verses 20 and 21 describes the first plague. And Moses and Aaron did so, as the Lord commanded. And he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the river, and all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood. And the fish that was in the river died, and the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river, and there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. The Nile, which the Egyptians worshipped as a god, turned to blood. But Pharaoh hardened his heart. 7 days later, God sent the second plague. Exodus chapter 8 verses 5 and 6 tells us, And Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up, and covered the land of Egypt. Frogs swarmed everywhere. They filled the houses, the beds, the ovens. Pharaoh begged Moses to remove them, and promised to let the people go. But when the frogs died, Pharaoh changed his mind. Then came the third plague. Verses 16 and 17 describe it. And Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod, and smote the dust of the earth, and it became lice in man, and in beast. All the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Egypt. The dust turned into gnats that covered every person and animal. Even Pharaoh's magicians could not replicate this plague. They told Pharaoh in verse 19, This is the finger of God, but Pharaoh would not listen. The fourth plague brought swarms of flies. Verse 24 says, And the Lord did so, and there came a grievous swarm of flies into the house of Pharaoh, and into his servants' houses, and into all the land of Egypt. But God made a distinction. Verse 22 promised, And I will sever in that day the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there. The flies tormented the Egyptians, but not the Hebrews. Still Pharaoh refused to let them go. The plagues continued to grow worse. Exodus chapter 9 verses 3 through 6 describes the fifth plague. Behold, the hand of the Lord is upon thy cattle, which is in the field, upon the horses, upon the asses, upon the camels, upon the oxen, and upon the sheep. There shall be a very grievous murrain. And the Lord shall sever between the cattle of Israel and the cattle of Egypt. And there shall nothing die of all that is the children's of Israel. And the Lord did that thing on the morrow. And all the cattle of Egypt died, but of the cattle of the children of Israel died not one. A deadly disease killed all the Egyptian livestock, but not a single animal belonging to the Hebrews died. The sixth plague struck the bodies of the Egyptians themselves. Verses 10 and 11 tell us, And Moses sprinkled it up toward heaven, and it became a boil breaking forth with blains upon man, and upon beast. And the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boil was upon the magicians and upon all the Egyptians. Painful boils covered every Egyptian. Even the magicians suffered so badly they could not appear before Pharaoh. The seventh plague was terrifying. Verses 23 and 24 describe it. And Moses stretched forth his rod toward heaven, and the Lord sent thunder and hail, and the fire ran along upon the ground, and the Lord rained hail upon the land of Egypt. So there was hail and fire mingled with the hail, very grievous, such as there was none like it in all the land of Egypt, since it became a nation. Fire and ice fell together from the sky. The hail destroyed crops, killed animals left in the fields, and struck down anyone caught outside. The eighth plague brought locusts. Exodus chapter 10 verses 14 and 15 describes the devastation. And the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt, very grievous were they. For they covered the face of the whole earth, so that the land was darkened. And they did eat every herb of the land, and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left, and there remained not any green thing in the trees, or in the herbs of the field, through all the land of Egypt. The locusts ate everything. Not a single green plant remained. Then came the ninth plague. Verses 22 and 23 tell us, "And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. They saw not one another. Neither rose any from his place for 3 days, but all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings." Total darkness covered Egypt for 3 days. But the Hebrews had light in their homes. Pharaoh still refused. God had one more plague, the worst of all. God announced the final plague to Moses. Exodus chapter 11 verses 4 through 6 contains this dreadful warning. "And Moses said, Thus saith the Lord, About midnight will I go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beasts. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall be like it any more. Every firstborn in Egypt would die at midnight." But God provided a way for the Hebrews to be protected. Exodus chapter 12 verses 3 through 7 gives the instructions. "In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year, and ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood, and strike it on the 2 side posts, and on the upper doorpost of the houses, wherein they shall eat it." Each family was to kill a lamb and put its blood on the doorframe. Verses 12 and 13 explain why. "For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you." When God saw the blood, he would pass over that house. This is why this night is called Passover. At midnight God struck. Verses 29 and 30 describe the devastation. "And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead." Every Egyptian home lost someone that night. Finally, Pharaoh gave in. Verse 31 records, "And he called for Moses and Aaron by night, and said, Rise up and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go serve the Lord as ye have said." The Hebrews did not wait. They had been ready for this moment. Exodus chapter 12 verses 33 through 36 describes their departure. "And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people, that they might send them out of the land in haste. For they said, We be all dead men. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses. And they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver, and jewels of gold and raiment. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required. And they spoiled the Egyptians. The Egyptians gave the Hebrews silver, gold, and clothing. They wanted them gone as quickly as possible." Verses 37 and 38 tell us how many people left. "And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramesses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot, that were men beside children. And a mixed multitude went up also with them, and flocks and herds, even very much cattle. 600,000 men, plus women and children. What had started as 70 people had become a mighty nation." Verses 40 and 41 mark this historic moment. "Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day it came to pass, that all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt." After 430 years, Israel finally left Egypt, but Pharaoh soon changed his mind. Exodus chapter 14 verses 5 through 7 tells us, "And it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants was turned against the people, and they said, Why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us? And he made ready his chariot and took his people with him, and he took 600 chosen chariots, and all the chariots of Egypt, and captains over every one of them. Pharaoh gathered his army and chased after the Hebrews. He caught up with them at the edge of the Red Sea. The Hebrews were trapped, with the sea before them and Pharaoh's army behind them. The people were terrified. But Moses spoke to them. Verses 13 and 14 record his words. And Moses said unto the people, Fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show to you today. For the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. Then God commanded Moses to stretch out his hand over the sea. Verse 21 describes what happened. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. The sea split in two. Walls of water stood on the left and right, while the Hebrews walked through on dry ground. Verse 22 says, And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. The Egyptians followed them into the sea, but God threw their army into confusion. Exodus chapter 14, verses 26 through 28, records the final judgment. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots and upon their horsemen. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to his strength when the morning appeared, and the Egyptians fled against it. And the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea, and the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all the host of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much as one of them. The waters crashed down on the Egyptian army. Not a single soldier survived. Verse 30 concludes, Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. Israel was free. The nation that had held them in slavery for generations was defeated. God had brought his people out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Centuries passed after Israel left Egypt. The Hebrew slaves had become a powerful kingdom. David, the shepherd boy who killed Goliath, united the 12 tribes and established Jerusalem as the capital. When David died, his son Solomon became king. Solomon was known for his wisdom and his great wealth, but one of his first acts as king surprised everyone. He made an alliance with Egypt, the very nation that had once enslaved his ancestors. 1 Kings chapter 3 verse 1 tells us about this alliance. And Solomon made affinity with Pharaoh king of Egypt, and took Pharaoh's daughter, and brought her into the city of David, until he had made an end of building his own house, and the house of the Lord, and the wall of Jerusalem round about. Solomon married Pharaoh's daughter. This was a political marriage, designed to bring peace between the two kingdoms. In ancient times, kings often married the daughters of other kings to seal treaties and prevent wars. This Egyptian princess came to live in Jerusalem. Solomon built a special house for her. 1 Kings chapter 7 verse 8 mentions this. And his house where he dwelt had another court within the porch, which was of the like work. Solomon made also an house for Pharaoh's daughter, whom he had taken to wife, like unto this porch. Solomon did not want her living in the palace of David. 2 Chronicles chapter 8 verse 11 explains why. And Solomon brought up the daughter of Pharaoh out of the city of David unto the house that he had built for her, for he said, My wife shall not dwell in the house of David king of Israel, because the places are holy, whereunto the ark of the Lord hath come. The places where the ark of God had been were holy. Solomon felt it was not right for a foreign woman to live there. The alliance with Egypt brought benefits to Israel. 1 Kings chapter 10 verses 28 and 29 tells us about trade. And Solomon had horses brought out of Egypt, and linen yarn. The king's merchants received the linen yarn at a price. And a chariot came up and went out of Egypt for 600 shekels of silver, and an horse for 150. And so for all the kings of the Hittites and for the kings of Syria did they bring them out by their means. Egypt was famous for its horses and fine linen. Solomon imported these goods and sold horses to other kingdoms. Israel became a trading hub between Egypt and the northern kingdoms. Solomon grew extremely wealthy through this commerce, but this alliance came with a cost. Solomon's foreign wives eventually turned his heart away from God. 1 Kings chapter 11 verses 1 through 4 warns, But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. Solomon's alliance with Egypt brought wealth and peace, but it also planted seeds of spiritual decline that would affect Israel for generations. After Solomon died, his kingdom split in two. His son Rehoboam became king of Judah in the south, ruling over only 2 tribes. The other 10 tribes broke away and formed the northern kingdom of Israel. Rehoboam was not as wise as his father. The kingdom was now divided and weakened, and watching from the south was Egypt, no longer an ally but an enemy. The Pharaoh at this time was named Shishak. He had been watching the chaos in Israel and saw an opportunity. 1 Kings chapter 14 verses 25 and 26 describes what happened. And it came to pass in the 5th year of King Rehoboam that Shishak king of Egypt came up against Jerusalem, and he took away the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king's house. He even took away all, and he took away all the shields of gold which Solomon had made. Just 5 years after Solomon's death, Egypt attacked Jerusalem. Shishak and his army took everything of value. All the gold that Solomon had gathered, all the treasures of the temple, all the golden shields, everything was carried away to Egypt. 2 Chronicles chapter 12 gives us more details. Verses 2 through 4 explain why it happened. And it came to pass that in the 5th year of King Rehoboam, Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem, because they had transgressed against the Lord with 1,200 chariots and 70,000 horsemen. And the people were without number that came with him out of Egypt, the Lubims, the Sukkiims, and the Ethiopians. And he took the fenced cities which pertained to Judah, and came to Jerusalem. Shishak brought an enormous army, 1,200 chariots and 60,000 horsemen, plus countless foot soldiers from Egypt, Libya, and Ethiopia. He conquered the fortified cities of Judah before reaching Jerusalem. The reason for this disaster was clear. Judah had turned away from God. 2 Chronicles chapter 12 verse 1 says, And it came to pass, when Rehoboam had established the kingdom and had strengthened himself, he forsook the law of the Lord, and all Israel with him. When the prophet Shemaiah delivered God's message, the leaders humbled themselves. Verses 6 and 7 tell us, Whereupon the princes of Israel and the king humbled themselves, and they said, The Lord is righteous. And when the Lord saw that they humbled themselves, the word of the Lord came to Shemaiah, saying, They have humbled themselves, therefore I will not destroy them, but I will grant them some deliverance. Because they repented, God spared Jerusalem from total destruction. But they still paid a heavy price. Verses 9 through 11 describe the loss. So Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem and took away the treasures of the house of the Lord and the treasures of the king's house. He took all. He carried away also the shields of gold which Solomon had made, instead of which King Rehoboam made shields of brass. The golden shields were replaced with bronze ones. The glory of Solomon's kingdom was gone. Egypt had taken its revenge on the nation that had once escaped its grasp. Throughout the centuries that followed, the prophets of Israel often spoke about Egypt. Sometimes they warned Israel not to trust in Egypt for help. Other times they pronounced judgment on Egypt itself. Isaiah was one of the greatest prophets. He lived during a time when Judah was threatened by the powerful Assyrian Empire. Some leaders wanted to make an alliance with Egypt for protection. Isaiah warned them this was a mistake. Isaiah chapter 30 verses 1 through 3 contains this warning. Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel but not of me, and that cover with a covering but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, that walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. God called it rebellion to seek help from Egypt instead of trusting in him. The strength of Pharaoh would bring shame, not salvation. Isaiah chapter 31 verses 1 and 3 continues this theme. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses, and trust in chariots because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong, but they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord. Now the Egyptians are men and not God, and their horses flesh and not spirit. When the Lord shall stretch out his hand, both he that helpeth shall fall, and he that is holpen shall fall down, and they all shall fail together. Egypt's horses and chariots were famous, but they were just flesh and blood. When God stretched out his hand, both Egypt and those who trusted in Egypt would fall. Isaiah also prophesied about Egypt's future. Isaiah chapter 19 verses 1 through 4 describes a coming judgment. The burden of Egypt. Behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt. And the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord of hosts. Civil war would tear Egypt apart. A cruel foreign ruler would conquer them. Their idols would be powerless to save them. The prophet Ezekiel, who lived later during the Babylonian exile, also spoke against Egypt. Ezekiel chapter 29 verses 2 and 3 records God's message to Pharaoh. Son of man, set thy face against Pharaoh king of Egypt, and prophesy against him and against all Egypt. Speak and say, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh king of Egypt, the great dragon that lieth in the midst of his rivers, which hath said, My river is mine own, and I have made it for myself. Pharaoh boasted that the Nile was his own creation. This pride would be punished. Ezekiel chapter 29 verses 10 through 12 pronounces judgment. Behold, therefore I am against thee and against thy rivers, and I will make the land of Egypt utterly waste and desolate, from the tower of Syene even unto the border of Ethiopia. No foot of man shall pass through it, neither shall it be inhabited 40 years. And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations, and will disperse them through the countries. Egypt would be conquered and desolated. The proud kingdom of the Nile would be humbled before the God of Israel. Josiah was one of the best kings Judah ever had. He loved God and led a great religious reformation in the land. He destroyed the idols, repaired the temple, and brought the people back to worshiping the true God. But Josiah made one fatal mistake. He went to war against Egypt when God had not told him to. The Pharaoh at this time was named Necho. He was marching his army north not to attack Judah, but to help the Assyrians fight against the rising power of Babylon. To reach the battle, Necho needed to pass through the land of Israel. 2 Chronicles chapter 35 verses 20 and 21 describes what happened. After all this, when Josiah had prepared the temple, Necho king of Egypt came up to fight against Carchemish by Euphrates, and Josiah went out against him. But he sent ambassadors to him, saying, What have I to do with thee, thou king of Judah? I come not against thee this day, but against the house wherewith I have war. For God commanded me to make haste. Forbear thee from meddling with God. Who is with me that he destroy thee not? Pharaoh Necho sent messengers to Josiah. He told him that he was not coming to fight Judah. He even claimed that God had commanded him to hurry to this battle. He warned Josiah not to interfere, but Josiah would not listen. Verse 22 says, Nevertheless Josiah would not turn his face from him, but disguised himself that he might fight with him, and hearkened not unto the words of Necho from the mouth of God, and came to fight in the valley of Megiddo. Josiah disguised himself and went to battle anyway. The Bible makes clear that the warning from Necho was actually from God. The battle took place at Megiddo. Verses 23 and 24 record the tragic outcome. And the archers shot at King Josiah, and the king said to his servants, Have me away, for I am sore wounded. His servants therefore took him out of that chariot, and put him in the second chariot that he had. And they brought him to Jerusalem, and he died, and was buried in one of the sepulchres of his fathers. And all Judah and Jerusalem mourned for Josiah. An arrow struck Josiah. His servants rushed him back to Jerusalem, but he died from his wounds. All of Judah mourned for their beloved king. Josiah's death was a turning point for Judah. The good king was gone. After him, Judah had only wicked kings who led the nation into disaster. Within just 23 years of Josiah's death, Jerusalem would be destroyed by Babylon. After Babylon destroyed Jerusalem and burned the temple, Most of the Jews were taken as captives to Babylon, but a small group was left behind in Judah. The Babylonians appointed a governor named Gedaliah to rule over them, but Gedaliah was murdered. The remaining Jews were terrified. They feared that Babylon would blame them and come to destroy them completely. They came to Jeremiah and asked him to pray for guidance. Jeremiah chapter 42 verses 2 and 3 records their request, and said unto Jeremiah the prophet, Let, we beseech thee, our supplication be accepted before thee, and pray for us unto the Lord thy God, even for all this remnant, that the Lord thy God may show us the way wherein we may walk, and the thing that we may do. They promised to obey whatever God said. Verses 5 and 6 record their vow. Then they said to Jeremiah, The Lord be a true and faithful witness between us, if we do not even according to all things, for the which the Lord thy God shall send thee to us. Whether it be good or whether it be evil, we will obey the voice of the Lord our God, to whom we send thee, that it may be well with us when we obey the voice of the Lord our God. Jeremiah prayed, and after 10 days God answered. The message was clear. Stay in the land and do not be afraid of Babylon. Jeremiah chapter 42 verses 10 through 12 contains God's promise. If ye will still abide in this land, then will I build you and not pull you down, and I will plant you and not pluck you up. Be not afraid of the king of Babylon, of whom ye are afraid. Be not afraid of him, saith the Lord, for I am with you to save you and to deliver you from his hand. And I will show mercies unto you, that he may have mercy upon you, and cause you to return to your own land. But God also gave a stern warning. Verses 15 through 17 say, And now therefore hear the word of the Lord, ye remnant of Judah. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, If ye wholly set your faces to enter into Egypt and go to sojourn there, then it shall come to pass, that the sword which ye feared shall overtake you there in the land of Egypt, and the famine whereof ye were afraid shall follow close after you there in Egypt, and there ye shall die. If they went to Egypt, the very disasters they feared would follow them there. But the people did not believe Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 43 verses 2 through 4 records their response. Then spake Azariah the son of Hoshaiah, and Johanan the son of Kareah, and all the proud men, saying unto Jeremiah, Thou speakest falsely. The Lord our God hath not sent thee to say, Go not into Egypt to sojourn there. So Johanan the son of Kareah, and all the captains of the forces and all the people, obeyed not the voice of the Lord, to dwell in the land of Judah. They accused Jeremiah of lying, and they disobeyed God completely. Verses 5 through 7 tell us what they did. But Johanan the son of Kareah and all the captains of the forces took all the remnant of Judah, even men and women and children, and Jeremiah the prophet and Baruch the son of Neriah. So they came into the land of Egypt, for they obeyed not the voice of the Lord. Thus came they even to Tahpanhes. They took everyone, including Jeremiah himself, and fled to Egypt. They had returned to the land their ancestors had escaped from centuries before. Hundreds of years later, Egypt would play one more important role in God's plan. This time, it would be a place of refuge for the most important child ever born. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem, wise men from the east came to worship him. They had seen his star and followed it to Jerusalem, where they asked King Herod where the new king of the Jews had been born. Herod was troubled by this news. He did not want any rival to his throne. Herod pretended to want to worship the child too. He asked the wise men to find the baby and report back to him. But God warned the wise men in a dream not to return to Herod. They went home by a different route. When Herod realized the wise men had tricked him, he was furious. Matthew chapter 2 verses 13 through 15 describes what happened next. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeareth to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night, and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. An angel warned Joseph in a dream. He took Mary and the baby Jesus and fled to Egypt that very night. They stayed there until Herod died. Matthew tells us this fulfilled a prophecy. The prophet Hosea had written these words hundreds of years earlier. Hosea chapter 11 verse 1 says, When Israel was a child, then I loved him, and called my son out of Egypt." Originally, this verse spoke about the nation of Israel leaving Egypt in the Exodus, but it also pointed forward to Jesus. Just as Israel had been called out of Egypt, so would God's true Son be called out of Egypt. The land that had once enslaved God's people now protected God's Son. Egypt became a safe haven for the Holy Family during their most dangerous time. Matthew chapter 2 verses 19 through 21 tells us about their return. "But when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of the Lord appeareth in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, and go into the land of Israel, for they are dead which sought the young child's life. And he arose and took the young child and his mother, and came into the land of Israel. After Herod died, the angel told Joseph it was safe to return. The family left Egypt and went back to Israel, eventually settling in Nazareth where Jesus grew up. The ancient Egyptians did not disappear from history. Their descendants still live in Egypt today. Many of them are Christians known as Coptic Christians. The word Coptic comes from the Greek word for Egypt. The Coptic Church traces its origins back to the earliest days of Christianity. According to tradition, the Apostle Mark, who wrote the Gospel of Mark, brought the Christian faith to Egypt. He is considered the founder of the Church of Alexandria, one of the most important churches in early Christianity. The book of Acts tells us that Egyptians were present on the day of Pentecost, when the Holy Spirit came upon the apostles. Acts chapter 2 verses 1 through 4 describes that day. "And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven, as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Ghost, and began to speak with other tongues, as the Spirit gave them utterance." Verses 9 through 11 list the people who heard the apostles speaking in their own languages: Parthians and Medes and Elamites and the dwellers in Mesopotamia, and in Judea and Cappadocia, in Pontus, and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, in Egypt, and in the parts of Libya about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes, Cretes and Arabians. We do hear them speak in our tongues the wonderful works of God. People from Egypt heard the gospel that very first day. Some of them may have carried the good news back to their homeland. The Bible also mentions an Egyptian Jew named Apollos, who became an important early Christian teacher. Acts chapter 18 verses 24 and 25 introduces him. "And a certain Jew named Apollos, born at Alexandria, an eloquent man, and mighty in the scriptures, came to Ephesus. This man was instructed in the way of the Lord, and being fervent in the Spirit, he spake and taught diligently the things of the Lord." Apollos was from Alexandria, the great city in Egypt. He was powerful in his knowledge of the scriptures and became a key figure in the early church. Today, the Coptic Christians of Egypt number around 10 million people. They are the largest Christian community in the Middle East. They have preserved ancient traditions and worship practices that date back nearly 2,000 years. The Coptic language, which is still used in their church services, is the final stage of the ancient Egyptian language. When Copts pray and sing in their churches, they use words that connect directly to the language of the pharaohs. The descendants of Mizraim, the grandson of Noah who founded Egypt, are still there along the Nile. Many of them now worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The nation that once held Israel in slavery and worshipped false gods now includes millions who call Jesus their Lord. From ancient enemy to place of refuge, from land of bondage to home of believers, Egypt's story in the Bible is complete. The children of Mizraim continue to live in the land their ancestors settled thousands of years ago, and among them are those who have found faith in the God who once sent 10 plagues upon their land. If this story has touched your heart, if you have learned something new about God's Word today, then I have a simple request for you. First, take a moment right now to subscribe to this channel if you have not already. By subscribing, you will never miss another video as we continue to explore the incredible stories of the Bible together. Second, share this video with someone you know, maybe a friend, a family member, or someone in your church who loves learning about the Bible. One simple share can help spread the Word of God to people who need to hear it. And third, leave a comment below. Tell me what part of this story impacted you the most. Was it Joseph's rise to power, the crossing of the Red Sea, the flight of the Holy Family to Egypt? I read every comment and I would love to hear from you. Thank you for watching until the very end. May God bless you and keep you, and may His word continue to light your path. Until next time.